Hello and welcome to our live stream today. We are, as always, given just a few seconds for people to jump on this afternoon. It's good to be with you if you're joining us either live here or joining us uh, and in a rewatch, watching it later. You are always welcome. We're excited to have you. And if you're here today, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know maybe where you're coming from, where you're writing in from, and we will begin getting things launched off shortly. Today, we're going to be talking about our discussion guide. It's a very key piece of Third Mill Institute, and it's what we're going to be going over. I don't expect it to be very long. As always, if you're here and you have questions or you're watching later, feel free to write questions, and I will answer them as we go. Happy to uh, have your questions. We love to spend time answering them. So we will just give it, like I said, just maybe a minute more before we get going. Uh, it is the fall here, and it is also Thursday. Um, Depending on where you're coming from, I know some parts of the world it might be Friday, but it's Thursday here, which means tomorrow's Friday, and then we get to the weekend. Would love to hear if you are here and wanted to engage on the post. What are you doing this weekend? Do you have any big weekend plans? I am headed to my middle son is in college out of town, and we get to go see him, which is very exciting. So we get a little trip on Saturday and Sunday. Also, my brother lives there, so I get to see him as well. So we get to see some family this weekend. I would love to hear if you have any weekend plans. Um, but yeah, okay. I think we're going to get started here. Welcome to our live event with the Third Mill Institute. My name is Steve Kamer. I'm the director of Third Mill Institute. Hello to Josie Ann, who has joined us. Glad to have you. Anyone else is here, please say hello. And like I said, I'm the director of Third Mill Institute, and we are going to be talking today about our discussion guides. Just to give a little bit of review, maybe this is your first time watching one of these, or you're new to either our YouTube channel or our Facebook group. Third Mill Institute is a ministry of Third Mill. Third Mill has produced the equivalent of a master's of theology in Bible and theology, and we put it out to the world for free. And the Institute is a structured certificate and diploma program where all of our curriculum is arranged into a 3-year program, if you're doing it part-time, where you can gain 3 certificates and a diploma at the end after you've finished them all. And we've talked here many times about one of the key ingredients to the Institute is we have people do the Institute in small groups that we call learning communities. And the way this basically works is students can do our curriculum either online or offline, but you engage with the curriculum. There are lectures to watch, study guides to follow, quizzes and tests to take, prompts to study. And as you do that, you can do that on your own, but then you come together on a regular basis to discuss the material. We have many lives on this. It's one of my favorite topics, but many studies have shown over the years that if you have an opportunity to discuss the material, whatever you're learning, no matter how you're learning it, if it's in a classroom setting or even online, if you have an ability to meet and discuss the material with others afterwards, it strengthens not just learning and memorization, but also application. So that's how the Institute is designed. And we have small groups all over the world. Currently, we have about 19,000 students in small groups, literally everywhere in the world. And they are meeting in these small learning communities, spending time talking about what they've been learning and learning even more so how to apply it. Because often we say the 3 main goals of the Institute are that students would learn the Bible and theology, that they would learn our material. Second, that they would be able to apply it to their relationship with God. And third, they would be able to apply it to ministry opportunities. And so the discussion times really lend towards making sure you understand the material, and even with a little bit more of an emphasis on knowing how to apply it to a relationship with God, as well as your ministry opportunities. And each of these small groups are led by a leader that we call a facilitator or a trainer. And the role of facilitator is to simply facilitate, you can see why we maybe named it that, to facilitate these discussion times together. And we talk about a lot how anyone could be a learning community facilitator, anyone can be a learning community leader or trainer. It doesn't matter if you've had lots of experience in ministry. If you do, that's great. You can bring it to bear and when you lead these communities. But if you haven't, we provide the necessary materials for you to be able to lead. Even if you're going through something like seminary for the very first time with the people who are in your learning community. And one of the key things that we provide is our discussion guide. Every single module, so the week's worth of material, comes with a discussion guide. And a discussion guide is a set of questions you can ask your other students when you get together and talk about the lesson. It's what can guide your discussion time. So if you don't have a lot of experience, you can honestly download or read the discussion guide and fill your time having meaningful and good discussion on understanding the material and applying it using what we provide you. So I'm going to show you what a discussion guide looks like. Have one here. This is our discussion guide for our class on New Testament epistles. This is our course on New Testament epistles when we're looking at the book of Revelation. And you can see here, this one has 12 questions, almost always the same. They will always look like that. And then there's a review statement, reviewing something from the lesson, as well as a case study, and then some questions to discuss that case study. So you have a set of questions to discuss, as well as a case study to go through. Now, the first question is always the same. What did you like in the lesson or think was the most significant thing you learned? And what questions did you have? This is a very broad and general question. Sometimes when I use it, I embellish it a little bit, like, what was impactful to you? What really stood out? And you can have a great conversation about the lesson and what people have learned that can take quite a bit of time with this very first question. It's an awesome question to start with. Now, one thing that's very important with our discussion guide is it's built to have a lot of flexibility. As you can see, while we were looking at it, there were 12 questions. You don't have to use all 12 questions. In fact, often you will find it very difficult to use all 12, and you might accidentally rush or cut people off if you do. You don't have to use all 12. You don't even have to use the questions in order. Before you get into a lesson, you can take time to read through these questions and see which ones you think might be the most beneficial to your students, or even the questions you might be the most curious to learn about. So you can take time beforehand, and it's what I suggest, to go through these questions, read them, and think, which ones might I want to make sure we ask, we talk about, we discuss, and maybe which ones are of secondary importance, and maybe which ones I don't want to ask at all. That's totally okay. And in addition to that, if you have your own questions that you think might meet the needs in a different way or a better way than the ones we've provided, by all means, use those. Remember, the point of your discussion time is to be having a good discussion about your relationship with God, about your relationship to ministry, about the material that's circling around the material. So you really do have a lot of freedom on how you go through this. Again, you do not have to do all of the questions. You don't have to get through them all. And you don't have to do them in order. You can pick the ones you want. Even with the case study, sometimes you might want to start with the case study and then move to some of the other questions. And what I would suggest as you're leading this time, especially with that first question, is answer it. Before you guys meet together, take some time, and you can kind of train your brain to think a little bit this way. As you're watching the video or reading the manuscript, what things are standing out to you? What did you like most in the lesson? Or what did you feel you really learned? Or what questions do you have? And write them down. And so when it comes time to facilitate the discussion in your group, you'll have a chance to, maybe nobody's answering, or maybe you want to add to it. You can share what you've learned, which will help others in your learning community share as well. And they will get the benefit of hearing what you've learned. I really recommend you always do that for the first question. And then maybe pick a few of the other ones that you really like. I circle them on my sheet. I often print them out. And those are the ones I'm going to ask first. And sometimes I've thought about what answers I would have as well. You don't want to be the primary one always talking when we're going through these learning community or these discussion guides. Give other people an opportunity to share as well. Excuse me. But if you have answers prepared, it helps facilitate discussion. And just to share a couple tips or tricks on often how this best goes is sometimes it can be hard to get other people in your group to talk. And sometimes it can be intimidating to share, or sometimes people are just shy. What things can you do to help people? And I think one of the most important things is to set a tone or an atmosphere for your students, for those in your learning community, that is welcoming and not intimidating. And a lot of times we do that by being very supportive of people who share. If somebody speaks up and shares, I see this done a lot. Sometimes these happen on digital platforms like Zoom or Discord. Somebody will share and they're really nervous. They don't know how people are going to interact. They don't know how people are going to respond. But if you respond positively by saying something like, "Oh, that's so good. Thank you for sharing that." Or, "I really appreciate your perspective." Or, "I totally agree." And maybe you've thought similar things and you can add onto it. And that way, people see that if they do speak up, they're going to be treated well. Others who might not even be talking see that, hey, the facilitator was really kind to Trisha when she shared. So I feel more comfortable to share as well. It's really keeping an eye on the atmosphere that you're creating so that people are willing to share. And of course, this will sometimes be easier for some groups and harder for others. Many groups, you might already have a relationship and know the people in your group, and you might not face that this much. Other groups, I've led many where I didn't know people at first and had to get to know them. And so we want to make sure we're creating a good atmosphere that facilitates everyone having an opportunity and just the courage to share and know that they'll be treated well. I would even go so far as to be careful with disagreeing with people. Sometimes you might get answers that aren't true or don't line up with typical Christianity or evangelical Christianity or Christianity, let's say biblical Christianity, and you might need to correct them. That's fine. Sometimes that has to happen, but I do encourage you to be careful when you do so. Instead of using words like "that's wrong" or "I disagree," you can say, "Well, I'm not so sure that's the way the Bible would look at it, but I think it looks at it more like this." And this isn't the last time you're going to get to talk to them. And if they persist, obviously sometimes you might have to just be a little bit more forthcoming. I really don't think that's biblical, but we want to be careful in our times of correction or even disagreeing. If anyone has any questions at this point, please write some in. Let me know. You can also, as I always say, do it, if you're watching this later, either on YouTube or Facebook. And one of the things, this just really serves to help you facilitate discussion. It's there as an aid. It's there that if you've never even thought of a discussion question, you can use them. But please feel free to come up with some of your own discussion questions. Come up with ones that you think will help. Remember, I know I've said it before, but I think people sometimes get stuck. You don't need to ask all of these questions, and you don't even have to do them in order. You get to pick which one you want to do. And again, this first one is such a gold question. And often I tell people this is a great question to use if you're ever in a situation that you get to lead. You're engaging with a passage of scripture, you're engaging with anything that you're studying. You can ask people, what really stood out to you? What did you learn? What did you like? What questions did you have? And you know what's funny? Often, if you're meeting for an hour and a half, that first question can take 20 to 30 minutes. And it's kind of funny, but what will often happen is through the discussion, you will find that you've, excuse me, answered some of the other questions. And as you're getting down, you read a question and you realize, oh, we already talked about that when we were discussing it in the first question. That's a great question. I do recommend you always try to use that one. So that's very helpful. So that's our discussion guide, one of the tools in the Institute to help trainers and facilitators really facilitate those regular discussions. I hope you find those helpful. And always remember, they're flexible. The case studies are great too. The case studies are always providing opportunities to get into good discussions. And this is another piece of the discussion guide. You might read the case study and not think it fits your culture super well or would identify with the situations of the lives of the people in your learning community. You can come up with a new um, case study. That's perfect to do. Maybe the whole group can help you think of a case study. What's something you've dealt with before, and how might we best counsel each other to help a person who's in the case study or to navigate a situation? Not all case studies fit all cultures and contexts in the world. So again, you can create your own case studies or use the ones we have or tweak and change to your best needs the ones we have. That can be the case with the questions as well. So that's our discussion guide. That's all I have for today. I'm excited to share this, and I know these often serve as something you can return to. You can watch again later if you want to review it or need more information. As always, please reach out to us if you have questions. You can do so on the comments, both of YouTube and Facebook, where these can be seen. You can, of course, write us at Third Mill. And again, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. It's great to spend time with you today. And I pray that as you are maybe looking to see if you want to start a learning community, or you're currently in one, or you're wondering if you could be a facilitator in one, hope this has been helpful. And I pray that God would be leading you along this journey. Again, thank you. And we will be back in 2 weeks with another Facebook Live and as well on YouTube. So thanks for watching.